What on earth am I doing in Maidenhead? I will explain. And we're actually up for an amazing walk today, and inspired partly actually by receiving some very sad news during the week about someone that some of the viewers of this channel here will be familiar with, but I'll tell you more about that when we get to a suitable location. Maidenhead is actually based on a Roman settlement that grew up along a Roman road, the Camlet Way, which linked Silchester to Colchester, but the name there is Anglo-Saxon, Maidenhead, meaning the new wharf, the Maiden's Wharf. We're going to walk along a section of the Thames Path from Maidenhead certainly to Bourne End, who knows, maybe to Marlow, although that might be a bit of a stretch. I've come out quite late because I wasn't actually planning to do this walk at all, but I went to a little memorial thing for the wonderful Dave Binns, who sadly passed away recently. I'll talk more about Dave, pay a little tribute to Dave up on the riverbank. So I just fancy getting out of town a little bit. It's not a good place to do a piece to camera here, it's very shady, isn't it? I haven't been to Maidenhead for a very, very long time. We used to come to a nightclub here when I was 16 called Cinderella Rockefellers, which was as atrocious as it sounds. And occasionally we would go to that pub over there, the Bear, which was quite a famous kind of Maidenhead landmark. Now it's a Wetherspoons. Oddly, these towns back then, Marlow, Maidenhead, was quite rough actually on a Saturday night, Friday, Saturday night. This is a little water course called Strand Water. But we want to get onto the Thames, so let's get out of the town centre. This is a bit of a false start for this video. I grew up not far away from here, so this is one of the places, the town centres you came to if you wanted to change from Wickham. And my sister would come to Maidenhead on a Saturday when I was, I don't know, 15, 16. I've gone the wrong way, I think. This is the other thing about these kind of places. You end up walking along arterial roads, but yeah, when I was like a teenager, this is often where we come on a Saturday afternoon. Not unlike I'm here now on a Saturday afternoon. Apologies, the light, I can't change where I am in relation to the sun, unfortunately. So, yeah, I've made a mistake here, haven't I? I'm walking along the edge of an arterial road, but I will get to the river. So there's an element of nostalgia about today, and I just needed to get out. A lot going on in my life at the moment, and want to get out of London, get out somewhere in the open space. And this is not a good way to film, is it? But we'll be by the river in a minute on the Thames Path. It'll be lovely. So here it is, the sacred River Thames. And somewhere along here, I think perhaps near the bridge over the Thames there, Maidenhead Bridge, was where the Anglo-Saxon wharf was, the new wharf, the Maiden's Head. And it was right near there in 870 that the Viking force that was invading the kingdom of Wessex, Alfred the Great's Wessex, they disembarked from their longboats right by the wharf and fought their way overland to Reading, which is where they established their base. Yeah, I've always had a funny feeling about Reading, and maybe that's it. It's an enemy stronghold. I'm pretty sure Diana Dawes lived along here somewhere on the Thames, overlooking the Thames, on the left somewhere. She's the famous person I most associate with Maidenhead, not the disgraced former MP, PM I should say, probably still MP for Maidenhead, Theresa May. But there are others, there were always lots of celebrities lived along this part of the Thames, some of whose reputations are not so great these days. And author Nick Hornby is from Maidenhead, you know, author of Fever Pitch, About a Boy, and one of my favourite books, High Fidelity. He grew up in Maidenhead. And this stretch of the Thames here between Maidenhead and Marlow, I spent a sizable chunk of my childhood along this stretch of the Thames. It's got very strong feelings of nostalgia for me, so this is a very nostalgic walk today. I know quite a few of you have walked the Thames Path before. Which way have you done it? Have you done it from the source to the sea, which is the way I imagine people doing it? But then again, living in East London as I do, my tendency would be to do it out of London, back to the source, which is usually the way I do my river walks. But how did you do it? I'm sure the directions in the Thames Path guide go a particular way, and I have got that guide, so I'll check. But I'd just be interested to see from your experience which way you've done it, because little jaunts like this won't stop me doing the whole thing one day. One day. Bolter's Lock here. Look, you can see all the seating, because when I was a kid, this was a place where we would come on a nice day like today and watch the boats go through the lock, and there would be, these seats would be full up. Everyone would be sat here watching the boats. This is a good Thames map to show you where we are. Look, Greenwich, Westminster, my more usual zone of operations, and we move up the Thames here. I think I've walked most of the Thames now to just beyond Hampton Court from London, and now we are here. We've obviously got Windsor and its castle. We're at Maidenhead, and we're going to go along. So that, I mean, it doesn't make it look that much distance, is it, to Marlow? We probably won't even get to Marlow. And then you can see the rest of the journey back to the source near Thames Head, near Cirencester. Been getting quite a few kind of waves of nostalgia lately, and was already had it in my mind to come back down this way. But I think getting the news about Dave on Thursday, about Dave's passing, and then going to the city of York in the city today for a little memorial thing for him, I couldn't really I didn't really feel like doing the walk I had planned. I was going to go and film a walk around Fulham and then along the river to Hammersmith, and I have those notes in my bag, but I was like, I don't know really. I thought, do you know what? It's a beautiful day as well. I just wanted to get out somewhere with a bit of deeper kind of resonance for me. So hence coming down here. And it's interesting, the word nostalgia, I think literally means the kind of pain of home. It's like a malady that is, is used in a kind of geographical sense. Nostos meaning Greek for home, I think, and Gia meaning like a pain for home, a memory of home. And it was noted by an English doctor on James Cook's Endeavour, one of his Endeavour voyages, where all the sailors were afflicted with this malady and they were coming down ill, and the doctor sort of identified that the only thing that was wrong with them was this kind of homesickness. It was literally making them ill, which is interesting. So this is a therapeutic walk, and we'll talk about Dave down here. We're heading towards some tumuli, hopefully, which is a good place to pay tribute to Dave and his contributions to this channel as well. Wonderful, wonderful bloke. Thinking about Dave today. Being down here is really making me want a boat, which everyone wants a boat in the summer, don't they? It doesn't look so appealing in the middle of winter. What's this little guy down here called? Is this a Mandarin Duck, is it? Beautiful colours, eh? Now there are lots of massive houses along the river, as you would expect here, but this is particularly notable, isn't it? I wonder what this place is. I'll have to look it up. So here is that little body of water we saw That little stream that we saw in Maidenhead comes out into the Thames here. This is Strand water making its confluence with the Thames. And on the other side of the river there, you've got Cliveden Woods, which are the grounds of the grand Cliveden house, which is a little bit further along. And I guess we can talk more about that when we get near. It's got an interesting story, Cliveden. And this is a really beautiful section of the walk under the shade of these trees. Anybody know what these are? So we have some information about this wonderful meadow here that's known as Battle Mead or Battling Meadow. And it's said to have been the location of the battles between the Saxons and the Danes, as well as during the English Civil War, although it says the truth is possibly somewhat less certain, which is interesting. So that's where the battle between those Saxons, which unloaded at Maidenhead, at the new wharf, had their fight with the Saxons. Perhaps. What I love about doing walks like this is you can just let your mind drift. I think I'll always really love walking around London more than anywhere because I need the stimulation that it gives me, the constant discovery. But then again, from time to time, I also need walks like this, where you can just drift and you let your mind drift and float across sort of memories and associations, or just take in the surroundings, really. Those stone steps leading away from the river on the far side there, that is associated with the landscaping of Cliveden House. So we won't be able to get to Cliveden to see it from here because the path has to go around an island and will emerge in Cookham, but the house sits up on the top of that hill there. So we have to leave the river for a short distance, but the bonus is we go through the beautiful little village of Cookham, Stanley Spencer and all that. Cliveden is a place of intrigue, shall we say. It's the current house isn't actually that old. I think it dates from the 1850s. It's the third iteration of the house on that site. Got that from Wikipedia. What I didn't need Wikipedia for was the fact that it's a key location in the Profumo scandal, which was one of the biggest political scandals in British history, one could say. And it's where John Profumo, the War Minister, met Christine Keeler, how shall we say, politely, but she was a working girl, who was also seeing the Russian military attaché, I think he was at the time, or certainly a key Russian Soviet state official, whilst also being a client of John Profumo, being one of her clients. So she had clients in the War Office of Great Britain and also in the Russian hierarchy as well, the Soviet hierarchy, which caused quite a ruckus, as you might think. And I think Christine Keeler was from this area, was from Ivor Heath, not very far away. That is not the reason she was at Cliveden. The reason she was at Cliveden is she was invited by Stephen Ward, a doctor from Marylebone. And Cliveden at that point was owned by the Astor family, Nancy Astor being the first female member of Parliament. My dad used to do work for the Astors. I always thought it was at Cliveden, but maybe it wasn't at Cliveden because it was when I was little, and I think they'd already moved out of there by now. I remember answering the phone to a very posh lady who turned out to be Lady Astor. Dad go, I've got to go up the Astors now. He used to do tree work for them and stuff. Dad wouldn't have said it that way because he has a slightly different accent to that. But yeah, so that was, in a way, I remember the Astors were people I had referred to as a kid in a very kind of familiar way. It was only later that I became aware of this idea of the Profumo scandal. The other kind of intrigue that followed them around, the Astors and Cliveden, was this idea of the Cliveden set, a group of kind of intellectuals, or one might say, when I hear that, a group of I also like to think self-appointed intellectuals who was really, anyway, my own prejudices, I guess, but a group of people that were regarded as, or regard themselves as, kind of influential political intellectuals used to meet there, and there was what's been now proven as a conspiracy theory that a lot of kind of pro-German plotting took place there in the 1930s at people that were in favour of appeasement of Nazi Germany. That's now been completely debunked. They denied it at the time, and it was debunked as well through documents that were discovered after the war, proving that actually the Nazi regime, if they'd invaded Britain, were going to round up the Astors and imprison them as well. So that's been put to bed. But that does occur in a few films. You see those plots and intrigue taking place at Cliveden here, by the banks of the River Thames in the Chiltern Hills, to Cookham, and the lighter story of Stanley Spencer, Christ at Cookham and all that. We are now coming into the wonderful village of Cookham. Another place laced with childhood nostalgia. Really beautiful place, Cookham. And here we have one of my favourite galleries in the entire world, the Stanley Spencer Gallery here on Cookham High Street. Stanley Spencer lived in Cookham and did a lot of painting here. It's 5:30, so I very much doubt that the gallery is going to be open, but we can try. Yeah, gallery closes at 4:30. It's a wonderful gallery, and Stanley Spencer is a great painter. I urge you to go and look up some of his work online. He's a really wonderful artist. I didn't really discover Stanley Spencer's work until I was living in Sydney, ironically, and there was lots of his work in the Art Gallery in New South Wales. But the story I remember hearing, I think partly from my dad, who used to see Stanley Spencer when my old man was a young fellow. He'd see Spencer, and he used to push his easels and his canvases and his paints along to the river in an old pram. And the story I remember Dad saying, and all the local fellas knew about it, is that he lived in one house in Cookham High Street with his wife, and then he had another house just down the road where he had a mistress or a lover, whatever you want to call it, and he used to split his time between the two women in the two houses. Quite a picaresque character. And I love this idea of him pushing his pram around with these artworks, which are now incredibly valuable pieces of art. Really, really astonishing pieces of work. I say Christ at Cookham is a masterpiece, real masterpiece. And that's my association with Cookham. So I know some of you will be going, what about the Fat Duck? What about Hester Blumenthal? I'm not interested in that part of the area. That kind of, so I'm going to let out my inner snob, the nouveau riche element, which have moved in since I moved out to London. But that's also part of it here. You know, if you're a foodie, you'll probably really love it down here. Not my thing at all. That's not my Chilterns. The beautiful Holy Trinity Church here in Cookham. It dates from 1140, but built on the site of an earlier church. This is a classic Norman church. You see quite a few of these around the area, including the one that I was christened in. There's a bit like this. Ah, back to the river. Glorious. Big wide bend in the river here, and we've got the marshes to the left. I think we've got Cock Marsh coming up to the left. Now somewhere up here on the other bank we've got the confluence of the River Wye and the Thames. I walked along the River Wye from its source down through High Wycombe, through Woburn Green where I grew up, but I couldn't get to the confluence, and it's over there somewhere. Yeah, there it is over there. The confluence of my sacred River Wye and the Thames. What a glorious spot to witness. And it's almost exactly 2 years ago to the day that I did that walk along the Wye, and I ended up just inland from there in the dark. That was a great walk. Links below, obviously. And it's great to see this little information board here opposite the confluence of the Rye and the Thames, with some information about the mills along the Rye where various ancestors of mine worked, and It's great. What a wonderful little tribute. I'm just trying to remember whether I've ever been over that bridge. I'm struggling to recall. I mean, must have done when we went to the Bounty pub. I seem to remember we used to get to the Bounty via boat. Interesting. As we come through Bourne End and the marina here, it's a lot more kind of built up, isn't it? I went to school with a lad who lived on this side of the Thames, and our school was over that side. I think it's had to change its names quite a few times because it's not the greatest school in the world. It was Wye Valley when I went there, Dane Court, then Wye Valley. And this lad used to get to school by boat. He used to row himself across. It's a great little path here that takes us back onto Cock Marsh, so we can hopefully find the tumuli and pay our tribute to the brilliant Dave Binns. The Bounty pub is back there, which is the obvious place for a Riverside pint, but I'm not sure yet. I was wondering whether I would struggle to find the tumuli, but it looks like it's pretty obvious. It also looks like there's a bunch of people on the top of it. So this round barrow here is one of 4 Bronze Age burial sites. It's funny, I thought people were doing a little ceremony up here, and the nearer I get, I see that I think they're like teenagers. It must be like a meeting spot. But yeah, there were 4 Bronze Age tumuli here. This is obviously the largest one. One of the burials contained a woman and the remains of a funeral feast. This was also used by Anglo-Saxons as a burial ground as well. And it's exactly the kind of place I would have come to with Dave Binns, the brilliant Dave Binns. It's great to see people using it. It's such a shame to see it absolutely littered with like what looks like toilet paper. There's cans and bottles and stuff, which is well, it's terrible, isn't it? But I think the other tumuli, the much smaller ones along the field edge here. John Tweedy actually covered this in a video on one of his channels. I think this over here must be one as well. I'm not entirely sure where the 4th mound is. It could be just here to my left, but I'm not sure. So I received a phone call from Gary Lammin the other day. Gary Lammin from the Bermondsey Joyriders, brilliant guitarist, singer. And Gary Lammin introduced me to Dave Binns, a brilliant man. Probably, I think it was in 2015, and I just met Gary. One of the first things Gary said to me when I told him about my interest in Epping Forest, about prehistory, he said, "There's a guy you've got to meet." And I retell this story in my book, Welcome to New London, because within a couple of weeks, I was in a car with Gary and Dave going up Hertfordshire to the Pinehurst estate to look at a Bronze Age mound in the middle of the Pinehurst estate. And it was Dave just opened up that landscape for me in a completely different way. And I've been looking at these sites for a number of years, but Dave just looked at it in a completely original way for me. And like I said, that is in one of the chapters in the book.
This is the biggest burial mound in Britain. There's a slight element of debate which involves Silbury Hill, which is of course bigger, considerably bigger.
But there's no proof for that though, Dave, of being a burial mound, is there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. It's a different type of structure.
Exactly.
And there are different interpretations as to what it actually was.
Yeah.
But there's
But this we know is a definite burial ground.
It is a burial ground. But we have to be careful because, look, you go into any Christian cathedral, you'll find bodies there, but it's not just a place to bury people. It's a place of worship, it's a place of historical perspective, it's a place of
respect.
Of ethnicity as well.
Yeah.
So we cannot assume they were simply convenient places for bodies. They would have had symbolic significance. Yeah. They would have been about conceptions of lineage, of where we're coming from, of who we belong to, but also power plays.
Yeah. And that's a video that's on the channel here. And I made 3 videos with Dave in total, Dave and Gary. We went to the Bartlow Hills, and Dave had written a wonderful essay, which I'll link to below, that's on my blog, called The Pyramids of Essex. Again, he had a really unique way of looking into the past and seeing it in a completely different, kind of very dynamic way. Dave was an academic by trade, but I think he was a sociologist, I believe. But he took his kind of academic rigour to looking at these sites. You know, my sort of more speculative kind of riffing was quite different to Dave's very kind of academic approach to it, but also he looked at it in a way that brought the past to life and linked the past and the present together, the dynamics which made people build mounds like this. I mean, the mound behind me is huge, and it's still there, it's still a prominent feature in the landscape. You can imagine what it would have been like at the time. And you know, Dave really gave great explanations of why these sites would have been built, or why they might have been built, what the builders of them might have been trying to say. I'll link below to the videos we made together. It's a really magical character and changed the way I look at the landscape. You know, huge influence on me. So rest, what is it they say? Rest in power, Dave, I think is the sign off Dave would appreciate. Rest in power, Dave. And yeah, he's made a massive mark. Dave Binns, raise a glass to Dave, which I think is what I'm gonna do now.
Look, a whole line of them. I mean, isn't that?
I think that's the end of the walk today. It's nearly 7 o'clock. I'm gonna go for a pint, I think, in the Bounty, or try and find somewhere to sit in the Bounty. And get the train back to London. I just want to sit there and think about Dave and our walks together. It's a good end to the walk to pay. It's a very sad occasion, very sad, but I think that's a great way to pay tribute to Dave, I think, on that mound. So I think that's the end of the filming for me today. I hope you enjoyed that walk, the Thames Path walk. It's great just to get out here. We'll be back doing the Fulham and Hammersmith video soon, that walk. Let me know if you've got anything you think I should include in that, apart from the obvious ones. Well, you can include, I mean, I might be thinking they're obvious and maybe they're not. And then, yeah, lots more. I've got a video on Fitzrovia I want to make. Got some very interesting places in Fitzrovia. What else are we going to do? We're going to do the Dickens walk, the Anglo-Saxon walk. A lot of information to digest for the Anglo-Saxon walk. I'm still working through it. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be fascinating, actually. What else is coming up? Loads more, and perhaps, because we're approaching the longest day, if I'm going to do the New River walk and attempt it in a day, which is scary because it's 29 miles, that will be within the next, between now and the end of June, so, or early July. Oh yeah, and another trip down the Medway with Professor Kate Spencer coming up as well. All sorts of stuff. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks to my wonderful supporters on Patreon and the YouTube members. Thank you to you for tuning in each week, watching these videos and leaving your comments and all the rest of it. Massively appreciated. Take care. As I always like to say, you forgot, look forward to seeing you on the next walk, wherever that may be.
It's over the meadow, over the stream, it's where I am going and where I have been. It's been a long day now, it's time for a beer, and now for home, of course I must steer. It's over the meadow, over the stream, I hope you are pleased with what you have seen. How's that?